Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, salam. Welcome to MACFEST 2025. Today we've got one of the calligraphy and arts event. It's one of the 9 mini festivals that MACFEST is hosting every year, calligraphy and arts. And today is a very special event for 2 reasons. One is because we had a little bit of reshuffle recently, and we ended up with 2 esteemed calligraphers on the panel. The second reason is because all 3 people on the panel are judges in the National Muslim Arts Awards, and they will tell you more about it. So let me tell you a little bit more about today's host. Some of you might remember him from last year's events. It's Samir Malik. So Samir was trained in classical Arabic calligraphy at the University of Damascus in Syria, and he's been producing Islamic art and holding exhibitions and workshops for over 2 decades at prominent galleries and universities globally. As an artist, calligrapher, and graphic designer, he has been commissioned by and worked with international organizations and corporations, as well as embassies, galleries, and private clients and businesses all over the world, including the royalty. His art composes part of the UK National Collection. He is acknowledged as one of the pioneers of the revival and reinvention of Islamic calligraphy in the West, and his art designs and photography have been featured on the web, in periodicals and books, along with frequent appearance on television. Also, he contributed to the logo of the MacFest Arts Awards. So over to you, Samir.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. It's really a privilege to host today because I'm hosting one of my dearest friends who I've known for decades, a wonderful man who's got amazing talent. So we're here today, like celebrating calligraphy and creativity with Lord Richard MacLeod. So Lord Richard's journey into the world of calligraphy began in his early years in Saudi Arabia at home, learning from his father, who himself was a highly skilled calligrapher and artist. And his father instilled in him a reverence for the tradition and expressive power of the written word that stayed with him his entire life. So complemented by private tuition, Richard was exposed to a rich diversity of Arab calligraphy styles and techniques while he was there. And that led him through his path, which he's going to talk about, his journey, which is quite a colorful journey to experience, to learn about. And he ended up doing, he earned a master's degree in design studies and Arabic calligraphy from the University of Sunderland, awarded in 2014. And that deepened his understanding of design principles and the historical and contemporary context of calligraphy, with particular focus on the British Muslim identity. Now, one thing I'm fascinated is Richard's combination of being an immigrant or fleeing home. He'll tell you his story. It's fascinating. But how art helps to build bridges, how it helps overcome, transcends global geographical boundaries. And Richard's exhibited locally, nationally, internationally, and his art, and to quote Richard himself, through my art, I strive to create pieces that not only captivate the eye, but also inspire reflection and dialogue about our shared values and heritage. Each piece is crafted with meticulous care, embodying the essence of both Islamic and British cultural elements. Now, 3 years ago, Richard gave a TED talk called "Can Your Exile Be Your Home?" And he mentioned that our old home will always be your home as well as the new one. And that harks back also to our roots as Muslims, that Islam was born out of finding a new home. The Islamic calendar, starts from when the Muslims fled Mecca to go to Medina. So, I share a similar story. My parents were also immigrants, highly skilled artists who arrived here. And so all stories that I hear about that really fascinate me. And so Richard talks about, how immigrants bring colors and customizations from their old world that fits into the new world, something that he's done to a really high level with his bilingual script he developed, named the QE2, which I'm sure he'll talk about as well. So Richard art is always about the beauty of imperfection as well, the beauty of our humanity. And being himself of mixed race and faith, he's very keen on exploring harmony and coexistence and diversity. His unique experience of wealth, poverty, success, failure, asylum seeking, diaspora, along with many other experiences, gives him a unique insight and a wealth of emotions to dip his brushes in. And we get the reward from, his creations. So, yeah, I'm very proud to introduce Richard today. But I'm also very proud to introduce my new friend, who I've known not too long, but who I respect highly, Paul Vivian. Paul Vivian will be also comparing today, assisting the process and creating, interests and intrigue and wonderful insights, as he always does. Paul Vivian is director of art and design within the School of Arts, Media and Creative Technology at the University of Salford. The UK-based artist, Paul studied at Norwich Art School of Design and the Chelsea College of Art and Design, and his most recent research is focused on Neolithic stone structures. Visiting sites across the UK and Europe, Paul Vivian makes unique field recordings capturing the eternal audio resonance of individual stones. He specifically employs a form of archaeoacoustics, a new word for me today, that has not previously been widely investigated. Paul is the recent winner in the Global Shorts 2024 film competition with his work Avebury Sanctuary Complex 2024, and had previously won the Wells Contemporary Art Prize in 2016. Paul has exhibited and presented projects internationally and recently presented papers at symposiums and conferences on his work, capturing the Neolithic sonorous at the Tate Liverpool in 2023 and the Manchester Metropolitan University Stone Circle Research Group and University for Creative Arts in 2024. So, time to hand it over to our wonderful artist today, Lord Richard MacLeod. If you could then begin. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for hosting me today. Thank you for all of you, Kaisara, Samir, Paul, Cassia, Steve, and everybody who worked and contributed to this festival. It's a great honor to be here with, especially with Samir. Samir is one of my teachers. He humbly did not mention that. He doesn't mention that I'm one of his students. And I've met Samir in 2000, I think in 9 or 10, and we've been friends ever since. And I went first to Samir to learn calligraphy, and we'll talk about calligraphy and what have you. But then when he realized how much I know about calligraphy, he says, okay, let's put this aside. Let's unlock the calligraphy. It's not learning the calligraphy. And we did not do any calligraphy. We went out and we walked long roads together. We had plenty of coffees and we talked about lots of things. And he helped me and guided me and supported me and taught me how to unlock it. So hopefully shortly you'll see plenty of my work. And Samir has contributed a lot to unlock what you've seen. I've prepared a bit for slideshow because I think slideshows. Okay.
Yes.
Brilliant. So what I wanted to talk today, not just about calligraphy, I want to talk about Islam, because it's part of me, art, but also identity and how they all work together. because to me, art is not just a taste, it is an identity. And there's many factors that make up our identity. And probably would be, I'm hoping it will be helpful to many of you who joined in. My journey started maybe before even the time I was born. We're all born with at least 400 DNA traits that makes who we are. I'm very artistic. My brother is very into mechanic, and we're both hands-on. But so we are born in a way with already some of the makeup. It's already there. Some of what makes us us is already there. But my journey has a lot of phases. Um, phase. So I've been probably on the road for a long time. We moved from Lebanon to Saudi in the 70s. Well, Dad moved there because of the Saudi, because there was lots of work there, like any other immigrant would move. And it was really a good move there. It linked me with my faith. And that's one of the reasons that I moved there to start with. But also gave us a lot of time together. I've witnessed a lot of my dad's work with calligraphy. So I don't know. I don't think I have ever chance not to be a calligrapher. I love my dad. I love my dad. And he taught me out of the calligraphy, and then I joined school and had plenty of tuition, and it grew up with me. And ever since calligraphy became part of me, I moved to UK as an asylum seeker in 2001, and that affected me a lot. And I've been trying to find myself and try to find what is home, and how can I find it again. I've done lots of projects in the UK. I became a professional full-time artist back in 2009. I've done lots of things before. I've done architecture, and I've done law, done photography, I've done filmmaking, but then decided to be a calligrapher. The bottom picture, you see me with Boris Johnson presenting him a collaboration work, me and Samir. So what I've done, I've taken a unique way that Samir writes Allah, which is the first time I've ever seen the way he writes the word Allah. That's a nice, swirly, elongated format. So I took it, painted it in my style, made it a bit more 3D, and we presented in one of the dinners for Boris Johnson. Humbly, Samir did not get up on the stage. I actually had to call him up and say, "Come on." Um, and it was a nice night. And ever since then, my work been with other people. Some like we've got one with David Cameron, to name just a few. I don't mean to name dropping. I'm just saying the artwork went so many places around the world as well. Alhamdulillah, I did lectures, and I was very lucky that the University of Newcastle hosted me, bought some of my artwork, and we've done lots of workshops there, and other universities as well. Sorry, yeah. So we'll see now in a few of my artwork. So over the years, I've done so many paintings, artwork. Samir mentioned last year how relaxed it makes him being in the calligraphy zone. And it is very relaxing when you have to pause, not to pause, slow down your breathing and just disconnect from the world and live with something that you really enjoy. Just focus on it and start creating this beauty. It is something that does affect you positively, and that's something already been proven by psychiatrists. Nothing to do. Don't listen to us, we calligraphers and artists. So it's been proven that it's therapeutic to do the calligraphy. I've done many events ever since, but I've always been looking into home and identity and what makes it. And how I've been looking for me in a way, maybe moving around the world for so long and for too many places, and trying to find me. Um, And to find me, I went back to the roots. So I've looked back into Islam, and I start looking into more. This is a big part of me, and learn more about it and become at peace. And been looking into also being an artist made me also look into what make an identity. And I've realized that humans have lots of common, a lot of common. And despite of that, we managed to fight with among each others, but that's a different problem, probably. But faith, we all have one faith or another. Even those who don't have faith, it's in faith in itself because they believe in something, so they have a belief. So we all have that belief, but then we have something that we need to have this functionality. So we all need a vehicle to move around, maybe a bus or car. But to make it simple, John and Muhammad move into this new state. All the houses look the same, and they move into a house. In that house will have that functionality, and they buy new furniture that have the same functionality. So they buy cities, a white goods, TV, etc. They all have the same functionality. What differentiates between Muhammad and John is the beauty. So the third layer. And beauty as in the different design, the different taste, the different makeup, the different layout, the different composition. This is when then taste becomes the identity. And this is how the identity become more interpreted. And that was a great, when I put this formula together in my master's, that was a great uh, discovery for me. And from there, it was easy for me to start saying what makes an identity, how can be the British Islamic identity, then start to take a form, trying to help me to get that identity together. Art was, I decided that how it need to interpret that form, that identity. So I looked into calligraphy. In calligraphy, there's those 7, 8, 9 classic scripts. And when we say classic, it's something that survived the test of time and popularity. So you've got the Kufi, which was the first official script that ever been used to write the Quran. And then there was a Nasikh, and then the others followed as well. And originally, it was only meant to preserve the text, the Quran, and be able to be a vehicle to move it around the different nations, and then they will copy it from there. And they wanted something legible, obviously, but something that be unified. And this is where the Kufi comes in a very angular way. It was almost drawn rather than written. The third script was the second official script. It was done by Ibn Muqla, who was a minister. That was done in year 200, and by then there was already lots of scripts anyway. But they did not survive. So that makes the one survived is the classic we're talking about. And again, the Nasikh came for the first time with very clear measurements, easier to write rather than to draw, which makes then producing Quran quicker. And then they can ship it to different countries where they can copy and paste and then teach that, teach the Quran. Calligraphers were greatly regarded, and they would go through scrutiny to become to become an official calligrapher. More difficult than being a judge, because you're writing the word of Allah and you're transferring it to a different country. If you have a misspelling, or if you don't write something, didn't write it nicely, that will carry on and keep going. So calligraphers were always highly regarded, and they had lots of discipline, which you will need to be able to acquire such motor skills that you can produce the same character and the same measurements over and over and over and over. Now, over the years, the calligraphy became very architectural, as in there's measurements, there is dimensions, there is a layout that it will have always to have them the same. When I did my master's, I wasn't happy with that because part of my identity was to express myself now. And being with people like Samir Malik, for example, who helped me to unlock and be out of the box that I was always in and living within comfortably. But once I locked the box, I wanted to express my identity now, me. So I've looked into calligraphy. I said, okay, how about if we make now a new script that will represent the new identity, the new British Islamic identity. We have lots of Muslims in the country. It's a new formed group. Why don't you find a way to represent them? We couldn't do with this obviously with fashion because everybody comes from different country. They have their own fashion uniform, so we couldn't impose that on them. We tried different things. My study was with Dr. Manu Ling. He's now in Vietnam teaching there, but that was my master's was in Sunderland University, it is still the only center that you can study calligraphy up to a PhD. But I was lucky because I was living just next door almost. So we looked into the calligraphy. It was challenging because calligraphers didn't want to do calligraphy, didn't want to have a new script. It's almost like a taboo to create a new script. The last script ever made officially was Huruf al-Taj for King Fuad I. My second name, by the way, is Fuad. So I'm Richard Fuad MacLeod. So King Fuad I, back in the 1920s, he was so, for the wrong reason, wanted to develop the Arabic calligraphy, but just because he actually wanted to abolish it, he was so mesmerized with the Latin calligraphy. And he had lots of soft opposition from the calligraphers, and he was the Egyptian king. Says, no, we'll keep the Arabic calligraphy. It's okay. And there's lots of ways around it. He was trying to do it, and they would say no. So he said, okay, well, I want capital letters because we don't have capital letters in Arabic, which is true. We don't have capital letters in Arabic. So they created this, which is basically, it's the nasikh, so the third script here. So they've took the nasikh and the second script, Ruqa, and they put something like an A above it. And they said, this is how we make it capital. It was a feeble design. It wasn't a good design. And the script itself died when when his son overthrown by a military coup later. But since then, there was no official script, Arabic script. Everything was just an attempt, or they do a word, or what have you. Even now, one of the most renowned calligraphers in the world, Wissam Shaukat, who's an Arab, by the way. He's not a Muslim, and he's Iraqi, and he still hasn't matured his own script, and he's been doing it for years. But we looked at it, Manny and I, and we decided to create a new script, which I did, and we call it Queen Elizabeth II. So I designed for II the first Arabic script since 1920, and it's full legible alphabet. It's a dual language, like the Muslim British. They're dual lingual usually, so it can write in Arabic and English. And here's some examples of it, writing in Arabic. And you can see very angular, because what I've done, I brought in, it's a hybrid of Kufi and Gothic script. And I hope Samir and Paul can see the Gothic and the Kufi aspects of it. It's very
Absolutely,
angular, and it's got the diamonds, but I have variations. And by the way, Kufi have there's two versions about it. There's one says about 250 and one says 2,500 variations of the Kufi. So Kufi have lots of variations, whatever number you want to go with, because I didn't count them. But that's another version of Kufi. There was lots of trials. There was lots of failed attempts in a way, but they all led eventually to finally coming up with matured alphabet, complete alphabet that we can write a script with. It's a handwritten script, so it makes the calligraphy rather than font digital. And this is me writing Khosh Amdid or Ahlan wa Sahlan or welcome. I think it was in 8 languages, Latin and Arabic, and it's on a church and on the door of a church in Sunderland to say welcome to people in many languages. And that was a great achievement for me, and I'm really happy with it. From there, I went on to write papers on it. One of my designs that says peace, you can see that the word peace and then the word salam come together to create one piece, says peace and salam in Arabic. This paper was represented in Australia just before the COVID, so we were quite lucky to escape the COVID. But what I've done, not just a design with it. So what we've done is me and Dr. Sarah Khalid from University of Newcastle, we made a design, but we made furniture that interact with the surroundings. So the table is actually, once you put something on it, it lights up. The painting will says peace, but if the temperature goes high, the writing change and says don't get angry in Arabic. So it's peace as long as cold, but when the temperature rises up, it says don't get angry. So to remind people. So that's part of the things I do. I couldn't obviously leave architecture. Architecture always been part of Islam, and that's one of the things that also the vessels that carried on the identity over the years. And one thing about Islam, I found it in my studies. Islam never, ever diminished any culture. So it moved with armies from one country to another, sometimes without armies, like in Indonesia, for example. But no culture ever have been diminished, wiped out. No, none. And this is why you see that richness in the architecture and the calligraphy around the world. And you see it mainly in mosques, and you'll see it even in modern architecture. This is the one on the top left is a mosque that was designed to be the central mosque. I didn't like it, so I've redesigned it. But that also shows how new buildings are trying to represent the new identity. And this is other examples of how some of them are still preserving the classics, but some of them having another takes on it. And this is some of the design that you will see in the mosque. But interestingly, the one on the right, that's actually the hallway between the House of Commons and the House of Lords. And you see on the floor, there's that shape, hexagon, that if you see it anywhere, you would think it's Islamic, and it's not. Because what was his name? Something John, I can't remember now his name. The architecture in the late 1800s, mid 1800s.
Pugin, is that right? Pugin?
It rings a bell. I just completely forgot his name.
Yeah. Okay.
He rebuilt the house, the parliament burned down. He redesigned it, he rebuilt it. Although he wasn't the Church of England himself, but he in his philosophy that the house, being the parliament of UK and the Church of England, need to be represent something, symbols of the faith, and he brought this symbol representing the faith, believing this is Christian symbol. And that's what I love about art. It brings people. I mean, some people might fight over it, says, no, this is ours, this is yours. But we can all be also say, okay, it's yours and ours. So this is one thing I like about the design. And I'm hoping that the calligraphy and the art bring us together. So this is one of the things that I feel that British identity is relatively young identity and is still finding its way. but we can express it in different way. The Maliki style, for example, the way that Samir brings the colors together, and the way he brings the calligraphy together in non-uniform way to express the free spirits of the new generation that would like to think outside the box, but have all this colors celebrated instead of what calligraphy used to be, just one single color, bold, with nothing missing in it. Everything, all lines are really quite thick. Like in this design that I've redesigned that mosque for. But we wanted to maintain some classic side to it. That's the prototype. We haven't applied it yet, and they accepted form of it, not all of it. So this is part of my journey. That's how I see calligraphy and how it's affecting my life. And I'm hoping to start. Well, I'm setting up a new gallery in the Newcastle to celebrate Islamic art, which is in definition, Islam doesn't have one single form of art, because Islam put a parameter that we have to work within. So anything within could be Islamic. But I can just appreciate that over years it becomes a symbol to say Islamic to reflect to referring to certain designs. And I'm hoping that the script that I've done, it's one script and it's bilingual and a dual identity. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. That was absolutely fascinating.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. What I find really exciting about what you said is you mentioned that the old scripts were, in my experience, the old scripts are more like technical drawing rather than art.
It did evolve. So if you look
Yeah.
into the older scripts and the architecture. So for example, if you go to Spain, just down
Yes.
the road,
Yeah.
and look into the architecture and the palaces, it's not perfect.
No.
So that
But
perfection,
but that's
that
also part of
architectural
Islam.
perfection,
Yeah.
it came later. And it evolved. So it's a script. So you've been working on script for 20 years. I've been working on
Yeah.
my script now for about 15 years.
Yeah.
Wissam Shaukat has been working on a script for probably also 20 years, and they're still working on it. Manilin created a script and is still working on it. It could be some little micro tweaks here and there that
Yeah.
only you will be able to see, and maybe other people in the trade. But it takes a while to develop a script. You can agree how legible be the alphabet will be, but you keep going back and forward and tweak it here and
Yeah.
there. And the same thing with the Thuluth or the other scripts. So the Maghribi that you mentioned, for example, the Moroccan you mentioned last year, how it's nice and human, the way the curves it goes and what have
Yeah.
you. The way you do your painting, for example, I'm sure if you reflect on away from being a calligraphy, if you reflect on your own script and you see it how it was, for example, 20 years ago when you first did it in Damascus, and
Yes.
now there's a journey. I'm not going to say matured because that's putting a certain gauge on it, but I'm saying it evolved. It did change a bit.
I think I've taken away things that I realized don't belong in there to purified it. It's like and so it's become simpler and simpler and simpler.
Yeah.
Like I was doing it over the weekend, and it's just if I think too much, I can't do it. It has to come through me now. It's just like, and that's the beautiful thing. Yeah, I'm a witness. I become a witness after doing it for 20 years, which I'm sure you find as well. Sometimes maybe that it's so much part of you that it's like breathing or walking or
It's
smiling.
I think Samir, Richard, I think it's like embodying the gesture. Whatever you do, in terms of whether it's calligraphy, painting, or drawing, there comes a
Yes.
point in your practice when it almost becomes instinctive.
Yeah.
And like you said, I like what you just said there about being a witness, to creativity. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Richard?
Pardon?
What do you think?
I agree with you, and I think that we've all been singing from the same hymn in a way.
Yeah.
And allow me to use the word maturity, and I don't like it
Yeah.
because it seems always saying that what wasn't good and what's now is better. It's not always the case,
True.
but it's evolving, it's changing. And you know, as an artist, sometimes you do something and you hate it, then a few days later you say, "Oh, that wasn't that bad, really. That's
Yeah.
good."
Yeah.
But we are constantly changing, and
Yes.
calligraphy should be a part of that change.
Mm.
Yeah.
Calligraphy, to me, is a time capsule that should always reflect the current trend, the current identity, the current taste. When
Yes.
we and go on from here to another point is what I don't like about those people who keep just bringing all the classic the artists, sorry, who bringing just the classic script in calligraphy. Says, what about you? What are you? Because what are you doing
Mm.
now? You're copying. You're learning to copy. You're very good in copying. You know how to do nasikh. It wasn't designed by you. It was designed back in 2250
Yeah.
ish. And then, so where are you? Well, I've tweaked a bit. Okay, fine. If you tweaked a bit, if you're happy with that. But does that really represent you now? Truly represent you? How can we represent it? And you've seen the different artwork that I've done. And there's a lot of colors in, and sometimes there's no colors. There was just black and white, and that can express something. One of my paintings called, I've called it complicated, and there's lots of lines going in swirls among each other, and you'll see it says, I can't read that, and that's the point. It's
Yeah.
complicated.
Yes, I know that. Yeah.
And that's what it's
Oh.
called. It's complicated. So, and actually, that what I've written is the word love over and over and over and over, and
Yeah.
and swirl away and many lines. And but yes, it's complicated. That's the thing.
Right.
So, and which is another issue about is it legible or not, and it's about representing of certain emotional feelings. But even architecturally, sometimes you move the dots from one place to another because architecture makes sense and then it not become legible. But to me, it's always about the identity. How does this
Yeah.
represent you? How does it represent your emotions and feelings and your status now? Does that reflect you as somebody who lives in England or somebody who lives in Pakistan? It can't be the same. There ought to be some differences. And we all know differences. We can notice them sometimes in the behavior, sometimes in the fashion. But when it comes to calligraphy, you put a lock on it, says, no, we can't change it. Doesn't make sense.
So
And
true.
I was quite fortunate to work with you, Samir, although I'm not saying it to your face, but I do mean it. I'm not.
Honor was all mine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to break those barriers and just go out there and
That,
what people
that's
might
one
call a
thing.
mistake.
Yeah.
It's an attempt. We're having a go, making a
Absolutely.
dent.
Well, what I find fascinating is your background in architecture. Because architecture, you try and create spaces to allow certain things to happen. So either homes, offices, or buildings, or universities, or hospitals. And calligraphy for me was the same thing. So I was trying to create a space on canvas or paper to allow certain people to experience certain things. And I feel that's totally valid. The same with Paul's work, like looking at the stones, I'm like, wow, fascinating. I want to touch those stones and lie amongst them because that's a space I want to be amongst. So Paul, you've created a space through your film and everything that makes me feel something. And
Yeah.
that's also like architecture because you've got an enclosed space that's not enclosed, and Richard's work is the same because what I'm fascinated by your TED talk, Richard, where you're talking about exiles and finding a home, and calligraphy that you create, that you make yours, and you put it up on the wall, can make a home because that gives you a sense of belonging somewhere. What do you think, Richard? I think that's so tied in with your work, your calligraphy, and your background and your filmmaking, and like the photographs you showed earlier on in the slideshow that I know are yours. Maybe people didn't realize. Richard, yeah, it's like, is there? You must feel that connection, but is there anything you want to say about that?
Well, the thing, art is one element where you make your home a place a home.
Yes.
So I talked about John and moving and Muhammad moving next door, and they have the same layout, the same walls, and same divisions.
Yes.
And all the walls are white, and they go in, and one would change the painting, change the color, change the lighting, put a certain design. Artwork is one symbol, one element of when they make the place they're living in theirs. You want to call it home, you want to call it a mansion, whatever you want to call it. But to make the space yours, you need to customize it, and this is where art comes in. You customize it. Sometimes they compromise. And so, for example, I've seen many people who have artwork they're not really happy with, but say this is the closest I will get for something else. So it's fine with me. But interestingly, people work with their intuition and they bring in other elements. And when they choose an artwork, they might not be able to articulate how they like the multi-layers, the opacity, where the dot of the noon is there, and when the curve of the fa is this way. They might not be able to articulate it. They can just simply say, "I like it," and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all what you get from them. But they're already expressing their identity because that's their taste.
Yeah. I was going to say that I think that idea of flow is really important. I think when thinking about Islamic calligraphy, and also the idea of space. And when we move through space, there's a freedom to that. And what Richard talked about earlier, which I'd really like him to expand on actually, which is where he was complimenting your support in terms of his development and that relationship between teacher and student, and the kind of meditative aspect of that and the growth that takes place within that. Because I think that idea of flow and movement and freedom is very much part of this, and part of the world of calligraphy here and how it works. But there's something that Richard mentioned about that relationship that opened him up. He's talking about the walks with the coffee and why that's so important. And really, I suppose I'm asking Richard to sort of unpick that and talk a bit more about it.
I'll try to articulate it, but as I said, sometimes we're not able to articulate as much as we want. But I do remember fondly my walks and talks and Samir experimenting with different things with me. And because I trusted Samir, so I've entertained that path and the other path and this way and the other. But it did change, and he always had a camera. I had a camera, and then the phones evolved really good. So there's always the phones. So we take pictures and we talk about it, and we just talk. And when I say it's just obviously the conversation is stimulating, and we don't just talk, about the tree is green and the sky is blue. We talk about things that we like, and that's always in a way that was meditation in a way. And we go different places, different events, and it's hard for me to say how it worked, but I know it worked. Trust was also important. And Samir is one of the most generous people I've ever met. I would go and say, take these tools. It's the most generous. So not just with the tools, but his time as well and his honesty. So when I went, and I like the way that Samir is mixing the colors together. It was the first time I've ever seen. I've contact Hassan Masoudi, and I had tuition with both. And which I want to mention something about Hassan Masoudi that in a bit. But So I went over there, and Samir, yeah, we discussed, and I thought it was going to take us maybe too long for me to acquire this skill. It looks a bit maybe too complicated, and I don't want to say, oh, it's easy to do. Went over there, half an hour with Samir, says, okay, I've taught you this, but you don't need that.
Right.
And we've already planned those 10 sessions. He says, what you need is to learn to unlock. And I think the exact word was inspiration. He says,
Yeah.
you need to learn the inspiration. And to me was, oh, come on, Samir. You
Yeah.
know, nobody
Yes.
teach inspiration. Keep in mind, you know, I'm an architect, so design is my trade anyway.
Yeah.
And
I think what I was trying to show you was
yeah.
great art for me is when it comes from the heart, when it's really authentic, when
Yes,
human
fair
beings
enough.
can recognize it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a movie or a painting, a sculpture, or a dance or calligraphy. If it's done with from the heart by a human being, then other human beings will recognize that humanity in it. So what I want to do is get away from all the cleverness
Mm,
and find out who is Richard inside and how do we express that what's sitting there out there, so people will recognize Richard is a beautiful human being who's sharing his creations with the world. And that's what, that's why we did poetry and photography and
yes.
make up stories and exploring, because I wanted you to really go in that circle.
And
We
I
have
went,
10 minutes
yeah,
left, okay?
yes.
So yeah, sorry, carry on.
And I went on with Samir also different commissions. So I was part of different commissions. We exhibited together different places. So that also gave me a bit of insight. But if Samir said those words that you've just said and he didn't, I want to from the heart. To me, I'm already established with design. So I know I'll do it with my heart. I want to do it. I'm doing passion. He didn't. He said, let's just go for a walk.
Yeah.
So went
Yeah.
and had coffee. I had another coffee. I had meat, and we're talking and we're talking, we're talking. So, because you can easily put a cliche on it, and then get you you become cynical about it because it's
Yeah.
another cliche. But no, Simi didn't. He says, okay, let's just walk together, and we did for months and months. By the way, I would come once from Newcastle
Yeah,
down to
true.
London, and would
Cool.
go and would walk. I want to mention something about Hassan Masoudi. Hassan Masoudi, one of the great things about him is he would sit down, he knows what you want to paint, and he got his ink that he make himself, square paper usually, and he would write. And he doesn't like it. Put it aside. He finish it though, and put it aside. And do another and another and another till he gets it perfectly. By then he done 10, 20 painting. And this is somebody who's already seasoned, matured, knows exactly what he's doing. And you would think that maybe his calligraphy doesn't have an architecture to it, like the Chinese, for example, but there is. And he would sell all of them. And when I ask him why, he says that imperfection will speak with someone in particular
Wow.
because
Yeah.
we're not perfect.
Yeah.
And that imperfection will speak with somebody who says, I want this one. Not that. I don't know why, because they can't articulate. But that one spoke to me, and I want this one. And he will sell the 20 of them.
Amazing.
Great.
So I've always, since then, I say there is no mistakes happen, but there's no accidents.
No.
Continue, finish it, and then do another one and sell them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you.
I was going to say quickly, if anybody has any questions, please post it to the chat. We have less than 10 minutes, but yeah, if anyone has any dying questions, please do not hesitate. Don't be shy. But yeah, please carry on, Richard. This
Thank you
is
for the people who
amazing.
attended. There's one says that I'm watching from Toronto in Canada. So thank you all for watching and having interest in what I said. And I hope you learned something, at least one thing from me. But Paul, I'm sure you have something that you want to say. I've learned when I listened to Samir from you as well last year, and I saw you scribbling a couple of things.
No, that's very kind of you. It's yeah, I was really making some observations, and some of the things that I wanted to raise, you've covered so eloquently. When I was thinking about the original calligraphy that you showed, which was the Kuthi, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we think about that in relationship to medieval script, for instance, it
yeah.
was fascinating to see your blending of Gothic, and Islamic
Yeah.
calligraphy.
They're cousins somewhere. They have the same father somewhere.
They do. No, you're absolutely
The
right.
similarity is just amazing.
Yeah, I think it is. But I was also interestingly, I was at a talk recently about the difference between, this is my own, as you can see in the background, Neolithic, Bronze Age, and the difference between that and the Iron Age.
Okay.
One was attached to the earth. Okay,
Hmm.
so it was very much that. And when you get to the Iron Age, particularly in Europe, it becomes about water. So you
Okay.
get an awful lot of offerings to water and everything else. And it was that point that I was trying to make about flow, that when we look at Gothic script, it's extremely architectural. And then it talks about Islamic script as being very architectural, but to me, it's fluid, and it's this thing that we've actually been talking about throughout, which is about movement in thinking, and also in terms of, the actual sort of creation of that. And those differences I thought were really interesting. And then, of course, what do? You bring them together in terms of the second, which is amazing, with that. I think this theme of movement and opening up is also about your own experience, and Samir's experience, that in terms of family, of the nomadic, and perhaps, the Muslim people, of the nomadic, of finding a home, and where that would be. And to me, that's all embedded within the script, visually.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm glad you
Wow.
mentioned that visually. If we can use the last few minutes to give a few tips. That wasn't planned, but let's just see. There's something about, I believe, your environment is your mind.
Yeah.
Tidy up your space, tidy up your sketchbook, and then they can go with you for a long time. So I'll show you just one of my sketchbooks, how I do visually to maintain it. I think that's the camera, so you can see here. So that's a sketch that I maintain, but that I study.
Incredible.
And that I spend just hours and hours just writing.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And then I finish the whole word and I put it online, and I know there's issues with it, but I put it online, get the notes, and see what this is in 2014, this one.
Yeah.
But instead of having a sketch paper, that will be something maybe like this, that you end up throwing it because there's lots of other writing. If you keep it tidy this way and organize it in books and books and books.
Yeah.
I was hosted once in a TV show, and they wanted to see some of my work, and I showed them this. This is me, by the way, writing Arabic and English. So this is the Arabic, but that's the English, the same again script. Bring them together here.
Yeah.
Arabic and English.
Yeah.
If we can do it that way. Yeah. How we can bring them together.
Yeah.
But just makes it tidy, rather than trying to use of the paper and write more and more to eventually it becomes just a scribble of paper that you will throw away.
That space around the whiteness is important.
True.
That void, if you like, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, in China, and which in my calligraphy, I've studied Japanese and Chinese calligraphy, and it was really important because it opened my eyes. They call them the white spaces or the flying spaces. All that void in, and to them, it's not void.
No,
it's part of the painting.
Yeah.
So you'll see here, for example, my hand is shaking, so I'm working on it.
Yeah.
You see the line?
Yeah, absolutely.
Trembling.
Yeah.
Very fascinating.
Yes.
Richard, this is beautiful. I'm going to start that as well. We have 2 minutes left. We've got a question in from somebody who's asking, what would you recommend in terms of courses and resources available for lay people in the UK with an interest in doing some practical Islamic art? So is there anything you'd recommend that you know of, the like resources, practical,
It's
physical,
all there.
online?
It's
Okay.
all there. But the real obstacle is not to get the knowledge. The real obstacle is the discipline. Knowledge is everywhere. You can get it everywhere. I'm not gonna waste your time by saying go to this link or the other. There's plenty of resources out there, plenty of courses online, but it's the discipline. You can start
But that
from
comes with
the
time.
automatic pen, just like the parallel pens as well. You don't need to have that bamboo pen or the other. I've got these just simple pens, chisel tip. There's a plenty of resources, but it's the discipline. So we run these courses, for example, every now and then. Me, like any other calligrapher, says, "Come on, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and what have you." And like any other course that adults will attend, you start, for example, with 100, and you end up maybe with 5. So it's that discipline, and time is an illusion. Time is an illusion. It's not that you don't have time, you did not organize your time. We all have time. I'm not going to talk how much I do, but if I organize my time, I know I can do it. That's not a problem. It takes time sometimes to set up the initial setup, but then after that, it becomes almost a second skin. Time is an illusion. Work on your productivity, time organization, work on yourself and how you can be disciplined. Find your traits of what worked with you, what wasn't. Some people work pretty perfectly on their own or online with a tutor or in person with a tutor. Work with what you have. There's plenty of resources out there.
Thank you so much. On that note, we've hit exactly 3 o'clock, so we'll have to hand back. I want to thank with all my heart the whole team at MacFest, and to my brother Richard and my little brother Paul. Thank you so much. It's been fascinating. It's been enlightening, and I've enjoyed it so much. And I pray that people out there have enjoyed it as well.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
so thank you, Paul. God bless.
Thank you so much for today. It was incredible. Honestly, I think all the people who are joining our Arts Awards need to see this presentation and this conversation, honestly. Can we mention anything about the Arts Awards? Shall I do it, or maybe anybody here would like to say anything?
I'd be very happy to say something about that. Obviously, we've got the Muslim Arts Awards, which is the collaboration with my university, the University of Salford. There is a submission deadline for the 30th of May, so it's coming up very quickly. We want to encourage you all to consider submitting, but also is obviously tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell any creatives that you know, because this is such a fantastic event and an incredible opportunity really to showcase your work in the Northwest. This is a nationwide, UK-wide competition and opportunity, and it's really, really fantastic. We held obviously the first one, which was based around the Northwest, which was last year. Is that right? Time is going so quickly. There we are. I didn't know if it was beginning of the anyway, but that was incredible, and we really would want to encourage you to get involved. It's a great opportunity. Hopefully, from Richard's presentation today, you're inspired, and let's see some fruits of that labor within the open call. That'd be great.
Yes, thank you so much, people. Get creative, and as long as you can fit in one of the 4 categories, drawing, painting, calligraphy, or photography, you can submit, and the submission is free. So there's nothing to lose.
No.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
God bless.
Before
Hey.
All the best.
before you go away, I'm just gonna announce the upcoming events. We've got tomorrow literature event, Osman Yousefzada, and then we've got next week 2 live events. One is exploring immigration at Manchester Central Library in the evening on Wednesday, and then next Saturday we've got silk painting workshop at the Bolton Central Library. So please do look on Eventbrite. We've got all the upcoming events listed there. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye. God bless.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
all. Thank you.